Bmore Lifestyle. Now, here are your hosts, Shardell Moore and Christina Denner.
All right, coming up, he and his poetry have become one in the same. We'll hear from the author and artist, Kondwani Fidel, coming up. Stay with us here at Bmore Lifestyle.
Through spoken word, he has empowered others while confronting issues like education reform and civil rights.
A Baltimore native who's become one with his poetry. Yeah. His name is Kondwani Fidel. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is exciting.
Exactly. This is so exciting. So let's talk about your creativity and artistic expression. You do so much, but today we're focusing on spoken word. How did you get even involved in the spoken word community?
So I went to Virginia State in 2011. I always thought that I hated reading and writing until a professor, Anna Westbrook, exposed me to Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou. Nice. Long story short, I would read their work, and I fell in love with reading. Then I said to myself, you can write as well. So I started writing poetry, would share with a few friends. February 10th, 2013, sophomore year, I performed in front of an audience of maybe 200 plus. I got a standing ovation. That next day, I went to Gandhi Hall, switched my major from sport management to English, and I've just been doing it ever since.
You just felt it in your spirit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so you've taken that and you've run with it. You're a now published author. Tell us about your book, Hummingbirds in the Trenches.
Okay, so Hummingbirds in the Trenches is a collection of essays and poems that explore the complexities of the young black experience in America. It is a glimpse into the black America that we rarely encounter in mainstream when dealing with structural poverty, violence, poor mental health, and inadequate schools, and how these things are bigger than any person.
Yeah.
In the book, I also share personal accounts of death and struggle, and a vision with how and why these troubled realities were created, and also a belief in change and solutions on how to get over this mountain.
Yeah.
These stories, they will make you angry, right? But they'll also give you hope and make you laugh. And I believe that the stories in Hummingbirds speak directly to the hearts of young people in Baltimore, across the country, and in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so deep.
Words are so powerful.
Exactly. And what inspired you to write that?
I was reading this book called Medical Apartheid. It talks about the dark history of experimentations on black people from colonial times to present. And I was reading up on the lead paint poison epidemic in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's real.
And, you know, I always thought that it was people just had bad luck. They moved into, you know, homes that had lead paint in it and they got infected. But I realized that the Kennedy Krieger Institute, they did a lead paint abatement study with the landlords, and they lured poor black families into these decrepit homes knowing they had high levels of lead. Fast forward after, you know, torturing thousands of black children, a judge ruled it unconstitutional and compared it to the Tuskegee syphilis experiment and said that y'all treated these black kids in Baltimore like canaries in a mine. So that was my first time hearing that term, and a slight Google search changed that. And I realized that in the 20th century, miners, they would go into the mines and they would take canaries with them. And if dangerous gases such as carbon monoxide was detected, the canaries would die, which would give the miners a clear-cut warning to either exit or put on protective respirator gears, right? So people will say canaries, you know, were put on this earth to advance research, right? But I don't believe that, right? Just like I don't believe that hummingbirds, which I, you know, call the people who live in our communities, we shouldn't be living there either because of the inhabitable environments with housing, schools, and, you know, heavy policing. You know, nobody should be living in those type of situations, just like our canaries shouldn't be in mines.
Wow.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Definitely.
A little history lesson there, too,
Exactly.
as well. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Talk to us about the importance of literacy, and specifically of relatability within literacy.
So when you understand the importance of literacy, it ultimately leads to critical thinking skills. And with those critical thinking skills, you can also probably score higher on a math test, right? But it's also a survival tactic, because now when you have these skills, you can maneuver better when you're in tough situations, right? And that's not, you know, the end-all be-all solution, but it helped me, right? When I started engaging in literacy, you know, I saw myself making better life choices, right? Not just in school, but, you know, through many things. And there isn't enough black authors that are taught in these majority black schools, right, that mirror the students. And everyone, you know, they become more engaged in film, music, art, books, you know, when they see themselves in it, when they see characters that share the same social context as them, right? Walk like them, talk like them, you know, all of these things. And that's why many students in Baltimore cities and other cities like Baltimore relate to my work.
Absolutely. And you have such a big future. What's next for you? Because this is just the beginning.
Yeah, thank you. So right now I'm working on a young adult novel, and I'm also trying to get into some film stuff as well. So that's, you know, just what's in the near future, young adult novel, film, and just finishing up grad school.
That's awesome, and you have an event coming up.
Yep, which is on November 9th. It's at Calabash in Washington, D.C. I'll be there performing, signing some books. If y'all free, y'all should come out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And we can get a little sneak preview right now.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have you take it away.
Okay, so I can just stand up?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yep.
Imagine roaches on your stovetop, not being able to leave loaves of bread on the table, or the mice will nibble through it. Can't trash the entire loaf, or no peanut butter and jelly or turkey and cheese, so best believe we are picking through it. Imagine Granny not being able to pay the gas and electric. Now we fall deep into the crevice of systemic oppression. Imagine being given electronic toys without any batteries and are told to have fun. You still wonder why we are frustrated, surrounded by racism and hatred. The rich run around clothed while we lie naked, scraping the skin off the bottom of our feet, walking in cold basements. Imagine you wanting to love your mother, but it's impossible because no one taught you to love yourself. Imagine cringing at your mother's sight because her face is raw, bone, skinny. She looks this close to death, malnourished, a ghost. Now you're embracing that dark night when she finally overdosed. Imagine being a young boy running up to your father on the streets. You go and give him a hug on his waist, you feel the heat, praying that he doesn't do anything dumb, but then you realize where you reside. Prayers come cheap. Imagine, since a toddler, I've been seeing brains, guts, and blood get splattered from fast slugs. All credit is due to my economic status. Poor and black equals automatic criminal. In fact, we are padlocked to poverty, this man-made habitat. Nobody wants to kill, we just don't want to die. We don't have the privilege to get out. We don't have Jordan Peele's eyes, so now I'm lost in the world. I've been down my whole life. I'm in a concrete jungle. I'm down on my mind. I was born on the brink. When depressed and out of time, I wonder, would the Hemingway drink? Vodka, gimlets, and wood tips, they call me by my first name. Spinning in a mental prison, this is a cursed chain. Sorry that my daily devotions are grimy and open. The truth couldn't be more potent. This is God's work, this is poetry in motion. I'm birthing a new generation, look at my stomach, it's potent. Imagine being dealt discreditable cards. We're given guns to shoot, but it's impossible to shoot for the stars. God, if you're in control like you say you are, then steer us all to your kingdom and make sure that when my grandmother dies, you renew her life with eternal youth. She is the Black Phoenix. Am I a genius? Far from it. Just a writer and a part-time psycho, a boy who wants to reverse time and play with his tycho. Embrace the way you laugh, look and love. You might be ugly, but guess what? You are beautiful too. Just like the rest of us stuck inside this cubicle glued. Imagine if I told you nobody has the answers. We all abide by geographical rules. This is my news with a twist. This is my ghetto point of view.
Hey.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Powerful imagery.
Thank y'all.
So powerful. I got chills.
I know.